The ongoing conflict in the Middle East has now bearing a brunt on the LPG supply and rates in the domestic market as well, and also in the commercial market as well. Across the nation, there have been reported instances of shortage of supply of LPG cylinders, especially in restaurants who work on the for whom basically the cylinders are the backbone. We are currently reporting from one of the most famous cafes, Farzi Cafe, which also runs hugely and almost entirely on the LPG cylinder, and they are also bearing a brunt out of it. To talk about it, we have with us Mr. Zorawar Kalra, who is the National Vice President of the National Restaurant Association of India, as well as who deals with this entire cafe. So thank you so much for speaking to Times Now. You've been hearing about the hike in price rates. Since you have been into the industry, can you please tell our viewers of how serious is it for the hotel industry, for the hospitality industry, and especially for your chain as well?
So firstly, let me talk about the industry briefly. We are the second largest employer of human capital in India after agriculture, with 8 million people directly employed and another 8 million through ancillary means. 16 million people directly engaged or indirectly with our industry. We are also the second. We contribute to the GDP between 2 and 3%. So it's a very big industry. The entire ecosystem is about 6.6 lakh crore, and if you break that down on a daily basis, about 1800 crore added to the economy by the industry every single day. Now, 75% of all restaurants in India use LPG as the primary form of cooking food. Naturally, if that supply is affected, then what will happen? Either restaurants will not be able to make the food, or they'll have to go to very limited menus. So either shut the kitchen in a few days if they don't get enough supply, adequate supply, or they'll have to go to that very small menu that is approximately 20-25%, which they can make on electric equipment. So it is a genuine, it's a dire situation. It's not an existential crisis right now, but if the supply is completely restricted or obstructed in a major way down the line, then it could become a snowball effect and become a very big issue.
And so how has been the recent last 2 years, like when you talk about this particular cafe, how has been the supply, especially the prices have increased? How much is it bearing the cost on your pocket as well? Because now it is, for commercial, it has increased to over 100 rupees. How many cylinders are, like, on average are you using daily?
So every kitchen and every restaurant of ours uses different amounts. This cafe, for example, in this particular location, uses about 3 cylinders a day, and we have only 6, which means we can only last today and tomorrow. So that is a concern that we're facing right now. Obviously, we are working overtime. We have sophisticated teams that will go and work with vendors. The uncomfortable part is that the rates will probably go up, which is a big problem. We are very against people taking undue advantage of supply issues and then increasing prices. We don't support that at all, and so that's one way where we'll have to use our relations with our vendors to make sure that we are not incurring added costs. But what about the smaller players in the industry? We at the NRAI represent not just the big players. We represent the smaller players that don't have the sophisticated purchase departments that can negotiate with vendors, where the vendors can overpower them, or rather they have no negotiating capability with those vendors. So what happens with them? So I feel the way to fix this is to ensure that the supply of LPG, of commercial LPG, is not restricted.
And just since you mentioned about vendors, like how is the normal process? I want to understand what's the normal process, because you are saying you have 6 cylinders for now, which is 2 days. Normally, how do you keep it in stock? Like you book in advance, and how has been the recent conversation with vendors? Are they picking up the calls?
2 to 3 days. Yeah. So some vendors are picking up the calls. Many vendors' phones are off, and many vendors have said that they don't have supply of commercial LPG. But again, that's a dynamic situation. Everything is changing every minute. Like for example, now I believe that there is a committee being set up to address this. So I'm hoping that this will open up the taps. Right now, it is a mixed bag. Some places there is scarce availability, but scarce, never abundant. And in some cases, we are not getting supply at all. So our goal is to make sure that the supply becomes unrestricted. And the way to do that is simply to give us essential services status, and also to give for the MOFPI and other, the Petroleum Ministry, to actually give a clear-cut mandate to the oil companies that the LPG supply of commercial LPG cylinders should not be restricted and prioritized to the same level as domestic.
Last question, sir, since you have been a part of this industry and there has been a lot of nervousness and now almost a chaos which is erupting depending on the kind of news that we are hearing, what is the one message that you will want to give to your industry people as well, and to the government? What are the demands?
My message to my compadres, my dear fraternity, is that hang in there. We are working at the NRAI constantly to address this. We are obviously taking it to the powers and the authority, but we are also addressing it with the media, and our goal is to make sure that your livelihoods are not at risk, that we are going to work work, and we're going to leave no stone unturned to ensure that your interests are protected and the livelihoods of the 8 million people that we employ together is maintained and is not put in any harm's way. So we're going to do our best to ensure that our voice reaches the right people that take these decisions, and we're going to constantly keep trying towards that. And in general, my submission to the authorities is obviously to give us the two things that we asked for now multiple times: essential services status and a clear mandate to oil companies to not restrict supply of commercial LPG.